Shiva Shiva, Racha, Racha, Racha. Om Shanti. So we were on the 17th shloka. It was 104 session. This will
105
be
today, 105.
okay. This will be 105.
Ji.
So we said about what is perceived or cognized by an individual is entirely dependent upon the orientation and tendencies of the mind. That means it is the orientation and tendency of the mind that has to be modified or changed or directed towards the process of seeing. That means darshanam. There's a difference between darshanam. Darshanam is not only seeing. Darshanam is educating yourself through seeing is darshanam. That is why many of the granths like Niti Shastram and things like that, they were all known as Darshana Shastras. They are known as Darshana Shastram. Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Darshana Shastram. They are all Darshana Shastram. Darshana Shastram is that through experiencing, through seeing, one educate yourself, one gains the knowledge through experiencing through the indriyas. Seeing, hearing, it's all seeing. What we say is that darshanam means darshanam through the eyes, darshanam through the ears, darshanam through the nose, darshanam through the tongue, darshanam through the sparsha. Everything is a darshanam. That's Darshana Shastra. Through Darshana Shastras. That means experiencing it. Experiencing in the sense, experiencing, many people have, even I had misunderstood earlier. Experiencing in the sense, doing something, then experiencing, the normal literal meaning of experiencing. Experiencing is that which is known as the anubhava that comes inside you from learning, the result of the, what should I say? Let me say this way, that the result through the after learning, that comes out from inner knowledge of you, from inside of you, or the ultimate result is known as an experience. That means anubhava. That's why it is known as anubhava. The meaning itself, anubhava's meaning itself, you see, I think I told earlier also, anubhava. That means that which follows the happening is called anubhava. Anubhava. Anushasan, Anuvartan, Anusmriti, and things like that. That which follows, Anushasan, Anubhava. The bhava means that happening. That which follows the happening. That which follows the happening is called Anubhava. Bhavate means happening. Let it happen. Bhavate. Bhavati. Bhavati. Anubhavaha. Anushasan, and this also. Okay. That's why anubhava. That what happening. Happening is not only learning or just seeing or just educating or learning. No. Bhava. That means after all that yesterday, the previous class I told you, from the sugar cane we get the juice out of it, the gist out of it, result of that. It's not the whole paraphernalia of the plantation, this one, machinery, and the glass and the container and the man who makes it or the electricity that makes it. Nothing matters. They're all happenings. They're all bhava. What is anubhava? What is the experience that ultimately, the gist of that, the rasa of that. So, the anubhava is called the experiencing. Experiencing is not doing alone. Doing is just doing something is a part of experiencing. Is a is a part of experiencing. It doesn't complete the experiencing. Is why Anubhava. Anubhava is that, what is that? That gives the meaning of Anubhava. This is called experiencing. So, what is that? Perceiving, that orientation of the mind should be turned towards that experiencing. That means we should know the result of that, whatever we are doing. We should know. But we should not enjoy it. It is not necessary to utilize it. It's not necessary. But we should know. We say, no, it rains. No, why it rains? We all know that. We don't have to go and stand and drink the water of rain. It's not necessary to know, have the anubhava of that. There are various aspects of the rain, what happens to the rain. The thirst is quenched and the plants and to grow and to create moisture in the air, and thousands of results or meanings are there in the rain, you see. So all that has to be assimilated out, that each and every part of that activity of that is called the bhavate, that happening. But what is the result of, the result of that? The existence of the Jivatma. For the existence of the Jivatma, water is necessary. That's why the rain. You see, I'm just telling examples, that's all. So what happens? The gist of it, that means the result of it. What is the ultimate result of that, what I am doing, should be known, is called walking to the spiritual path. I do not know what I am doing, I am just doing. Somebody has told me to do it, I am doing it, that's all. That's not the way, I should know what I am doing. That means I should really know what is the anubhava of what I do. If I do this, this will happen. You should know. You cannot say that, oh, I don't bother what happens, or I don't know what happens. No, I do not want to know what happens, or I do know what happens. No. You have to experience anubhava. That means not only knowing that. No. Suppose I do a karma, I know this is what happens. No, Bhagavan says no. You experience it. Experience it means you feel it. You think. Now we say, no, in English there is a small proverb. You be in his shoes. You be in his shoes, or something like that. No, I think, am I right? Yes. Usage.
Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in his shoes.
Put yourself in other's shoe, or the other man's shoe. That means you experience that what he is experiencing, you should experience. This is exactly what happens. That means anubhava, Manaji. Not that I know, okay, oh, he is going a lot of problem. That's one way. I know that he has got a lot of problem. But if I am in his position, how I will feel should be experienced is called anubhava. You got my point. This is anubhava. Anubhava, by looking at a flower, what is the anubhava? Oh, not that it is beautiful. The beauty that comes in your senses has to come in the inner faculty of yours. That beauty. This is called anubhava. That which cannot be explained. That's anubhava. That explanation cannot be done. That is why when you gain an anubhava, what happens? In everything, when you get an anubhava, what happens? Then the state of ananda, that ashirya comes. Akasmita comes. No, akasmita is that immediately that ashiryata. Ashirya, that means the surprise visiting comes. Yes, akasmitam. That akasmitam, that anubhava, that surprise. Because when you feel that experiences, when you have experiences, that ananda, that constant ananda, the akasmitam, as they say that when they explained Bhagavan Vishnu's statue or Bhagavan's statue in a temple or in a picture, even when they explained about Bhagavan, that always, when you look at him, you will find that he will always have a mandasmitam on his lips. Mandasmita means is it a smile? No. Is it a smile or not? No, that's that kind of. It's not a complete smile, but it is not that complete not. In between that is called mandasmita. Mandasmita. Manda means very slowly. trying to sleep, we can say, if you was trying to smile, if I can tell like that, it's called Mandasmritam. How is it Mandasmritam? An automatic, this I have explained earlier somewhere in my class, that it's an automatic process when we have got Ananda inside us. The muscular and the tissues in our body, as well as muscular in the body and all that, it will always show that happiness inside. The expression of his eyes, expression of his lips, expression of his hands, expression of his face, everything will show that. हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, देखो उसको, उनके चेहरा देखने से बहुत शांत लगता है, अच्छा लगता है कि बहुत हैप्पी है, पीसफुल है, or agitated है, or not. This we say by looking at it, even a normal man can say. Why? This emotion, that means whatever is happening in Anubhava inside you, is expressed through the indriyas and the facial tissues and the muscles, or not only facial, the whole body of course, but face being the one which is expressive, more expressive, because all the 4 indriyas are in the face only. The 5th indriya, even 5 indriyas, all the 5 indriyas mostly, they are all in the face. So what happens, all the indriyas when they project, everything can be seen in the face. We say that's why by looking at the face we can understand, we can make out. इसलिए बोलते हैं कि face reading, body reading नहीं बोला, face reading. Only in the body language we said. Face reading. Reading the face, that means reading the indriyas. That what is the meaning of face? Face reading means what? Reading the expression of the indriyas through the facial tissues and muscles is called that. So, Mandasmita, Anubhava, what I mean to say that what you are experiencing in the mind, that whatever you are experiencing in the mind can be seen on your face. You may try to hide it through words, you be very humble, very nice and things like that. But looking at you, one can say that, no, there is a contradiction. No? We can see that. We are normal, even everybody can say, most of the people can say, because it is so expressive that even a common man can see. You don't have to be a rishi or a tapasvi for that. No. Mostly. Well, very in-depth details or very sukshma bhava, subtle level of emotions, that to understand one has to study. That one has to study. That everybody cannot do it. But in general conditions, everybody can see it. No, I'm just explaining Anubhava. That means you should know that. What is the meaning of Anubhava? What's the meaning of experiencing? So experiencing is not just knowing. No. By doing, by reading, by listening, by seeing, by hearing. Just knowing is not that. You experience it. Experience it. Anubhava from inside you. That same feeling you should get it. That what you are thinking, that I know, that should come from inside. That's why one knowing is known as an awareness, that Anubhava is known as knowledge. When you experience it, that becomes the knowledge. The other one is only awareness. I know it, okay. What is spirituality? Oh, I know. You tell me, I will recite the mantras by heart. No problem. The other man, you ask the other man, who is a knowledgeable person, he says, I do not know. I don't remember any mantras. I don't remember anything. But I know what is, but I am experiencing Ananda. But I cannot express it to you. Sorry. Is what he says. This is Anubhava. When in the Sabha of, you must have known this story of, we have seen it in the television number of times, in various stories, where Yajnavalkya, Ashtavakra, when he went first time to the Raja Janak's palace, first time, to take the part, to participate in the debate of Shastra Artha, he discusses things with the very knowledgeable person. He wanted to prove he is wrong. Why? Because he always wanted to, even though he is a knowledgeable man, what happened? His knowledge was only awareness. It was not Anubhava. So what happened? Because he was having only the knowledge of the awareness, he used to say that whoever gets defeated by me, he should jump into the sea and then should not come out. That means they will tie a big stone on him and they will push him down. This is the punishment. So a man who is claiming that he is knowledgeable, he wants the one who gets defeated, he should be punished like this. This is what he proves. Ultimately, talking about the Shastras only, from various subjects of Shastras, Ashtavakra ultimately win over the Jnani who claimed to be a Jnani. Then he himself says, I don't know whether you noticed this part, because this is the part which is important. Because other things are all learned from the book or learned from the Guru, which they are explaining. What is called this, what is called Atma, what is called Paramatma, can you see a Paramatma, and all those discussions were happening, and everybody knew that, and people discussed, and then they all knew. Ultimately, when Ashtavakra has won over him, who claimed to be the Jnani, he accepts. I accept my defeat. Now please tell me, when should I go and jump into the sea so you can make preparations, hey Rajan. He requests the Raja, please give me that punishment. Then Ashtavakra says, Jnanam, or knowing Jnanam, or Tarka on the Jnanam, discussions on the Jnanam, learning the Jnanam, or one knows and one knows more, or one is able to express it more, one is not able to express it more, is not the question here. And there is no question of defeat as far as Vedanta is concerned. There is no question, as I told you in our class also, there is no success, there is no failure. Everything is a learning. Even that he doesn't know the answer of this question is a learning. It's not defeat. I do not know the answer of this is a learning, not the defeat. So there is no question of success and failure. So the true Jnani, he doesn't say that I am the Jnani, he doesn't say. The true Jnanam is that he is not eligible to give any punishment to him, he is only eligible to give the Jnanam to the others, that's all. Therefore, no punishment should be given. So the punishment that what you had given to my father, his father was defeated and pushed him into the sea, was absolutely anyaya. So you have to revive him. They revived his father afterwards. The story goes like that. In Ashtavakra Gita, we have learned this. So Ashtavakra says that there is no success, there is no failure. Even I do not know is a learning, anubhava, you see. Now how do you feel? After you are told that you do not know, I surrender, I do not know, and you have won and I have failed. How do you feel it? That feeling itself is a knowledge. This is how you gain the knowledge. There is no punishment as far as it is concerned. One who doesn't know doesn't mean that one has to be punished or physically punished. What is the other one? You are physically destroying somebody's knowledge, who has been expressing, and only because of a small mistake of spelling or something like that, he is being declared as a failure. Is he a failure? Who are you to declare a failure? No. What is success? What is failure? Anubhava is that experiencing that failure. I prayed to the Lord and I cried and cried. There's a story of, what is his name? I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Mahananda, something like that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I forget the name. He is an untouchable. He's a Shilpi, but he's an untouchable. He's a Shilpi. He does the Shilpa of Bhagavan Shiv, Shivlinga for the temples. He makes it with a lot of devotion and dedication. You know that there is a niyama for making the God's pictures and God's statues and all that. It is not just like that, The person who makes it, he has to take a vrata. The true, वो street में बैठ के paint करना, that's a different thing. There are people like that also. But truly, if somebody wants an idol to be worshipped for a purpose of worship, and if he has to cast one with the Ashtadhatu or Panchadhatu or Shashtadhatu, Saptadhatu, whatever it is, or make it with a stone, from the day he will calculate, from the day on, you must have read it in the Shastras, definitely. Still I explained that for the purpose of continuity. He takes a vrata, from the day one he takes a vrata, then he goes and selects the metal or the stone from where it has to be taken, from the day onwards, day one onwards. And from that day onwards he is on the vrata, he is on dedication and devotion, he has got certain discipline. He has to get up in the morning, he should eat only this, he should sleep only like this. There's a absolute brahmacharyatva. The total brahmacharyatva, through brahmacharyatva, he lives and he makes it. With lot of devotion and dedication, he makes it. Once he makes it, then the people come and they buy it and they take it to the temple. This was ordered by a king, let us say, he is a king. He orders to him to make it. So after he makes it, he informs them, they come. And when they come, they bring one pujari. And the pujari will chant mantras and take the jala and sprinkle all over. Then only they take the Shivlinga and goes first of all. And he himself has done it with a lot of devotion and dedication. After he established the Shivlinga or the Pratishtha, after the Pratishtha has been done by the Tantri in the temple, then they started doing puja. One day this man, who is a Shilpi, he wanted to pray to the Lord. He goes there. But you know that those days, long back, those days the untouchable, these people are not supposed to enter the temple. No, only a certain class of people are supposed to enter the temple. So he stands outside the temple and he prays to the Lord. Hey Bhagavan, let me stand in front of you there and then allow me to pray. He has got feeling, Anubhava is there, because when he is making that Shivlinga, that bhakti inherent inside him, he has evoked that Anubhava. He wanted to feel that completeness of that, after seeing that it is being truly worshipped, that picture he wanted to have the Anubhava. But what happens? You know that people come and then push him out, they punish him, they throw him out and all that. Then he is, in the night, he prays to the Lord. He says, don't worry, tomorrow morning you go, you will be received by the Raja and he will take you inside and then you can see. The story goes like that. So he goes and sees the Bhagavan in presence of him, and then Lord comes in the dream of the Raja as well as the Pujari and everybody, tells him that you should take this man and make him pray in presence of him. What is the meaning of this story? What I said was that when that Anubhava takes place, the true bhakti is what? True bhakti is that what he has got, the Shilpi who has done it. He neither chanted mantras nor did the puja nor worship. His worship was inside. No? So from the worship, that what he has got inside, his hands were automatically moving how to make that Shilpa. Not that because of his intelligence, not because of his practice, not because of anything else. That's why this vrata is taken. So through the Anubhava only, these auspicious things can be made. This is the feeling of it. So that anything that is made with the Shilpa, that from the emotion, that from that what is the Anubhava, then only it will become that exactly what he was thinking of that. Same thing Bhagavan Krishna explains to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. He also says that, hey Bhagavan, Karma Yoga, sorry, he said Karma Yoga, that means merging with the karma. What is merging with the karma? That you become one with the karma. That means you experience the karma, Anubhava. that what you are doing, you should experience it to yourself. As I told you, be in the other's place. Experience that. This Anubhava, he tells Arjuna, hey Arjuna, it is not that what you are seeing and what you are doing through the emotions that is important. The gist of it, after the war, what is going to happen? Is that what you should know? A jnani should know that. A jnani is not supposed to be knowing that I am killing somebody, or I am in a war, I am supposed to do this. Not for winning again. There is no win, there is no loss. There is no somebody getting defeated. Who gets defeated in a war? Both gets defeated. Somebody said, both gets defeated. But here, Bhagavan tells Arjuna that you must do your karma. And this is karma yoga. What is karma yoga? To be one with the karma. To be one with the karma means having anubhava of the karma, experiencing the karma. You fight a war and then you win over and you establish by killing them, what happens? You establish dharma. No? So that dharma that you establish, that has to be experienced in you. This is what is called anubhava of the karma yoga. The same way, why did I explain all this? Because in the previous class I said, each and every step that we are walking, each and every karma that we are doing, each and every thought that comes to our mind is walking towards the spirituality. Walking to the spirituality. That means, if that thought matures in the right manner, I achieve the result. If that thought doesn't, or the karma, anything. Karma means, it's not only what I am talking about, the karma of doing something, even bhakti, even jnanam, even sannyasa, even vanaprastha, anything is that for that matter, if that is being done, there has to be an anubhava, an experiencing has to be there. That through that experiencing, that in each and every step what we are walking, we are all doing everything. Even a man who murders somebody else is also walking towards the spirituality, but only thing, he does it through a wrong process, he is walking. So what happens? His hurdles are more, his punishments are more, obstructions are more towards achieving that. So he takes number of janmas. Is called, we get punya and papa, that we get out of the papa, that too, because when he does a karma without experiencing that what happened, he does a mistake. We call it as a mistake. That's why it is known as mistake. It's a wrong thing that what we are doing. That how is it mistake? That what we are, unless we experience that, unless we have anubhava of that, and I do something without having, and when I do it and it gives a reverse karma phala, or the anubhava that is which is disturbing, anubhava, even that is also anubhava that is disturbing, anubhava that is not establishing dharma, anubhava that is not taking me towards the walk of the spirituality, draws me back, will project me towards executing a karma repeatedly, number of times in number of janmas. That's why it takes a longer path for him to reach that. Whereas by learning the Shastras, by knowing, by having the knowledge, jnanam of that, a person who does the karma should have the anubhava of what he is doing, a kartavya or karma, so that turns out to be the jnanam, which doesn't turn out to be an enjoyment of the karma phala. Karma phala will be there in everything. If I do a karma, there will be a phala. Enjoyment of karma phala or asakti towards the karma phala should not be there. There should not be. Asakti means a desire towards that, or an expectation of that repetition of that karma phala should not be there. Is why this experiencing has to be done. And we bring up children also. Children that we do that according to our own desire, we bring the children. We want him to be doing this, we want him to be doing that, we want him to be doing that. And depending upon that we do, it is not the right way. What is that he feels should be known. What is benefit for him, what is the right for him, and how this is to be known. We cannot know. It's only up to us. That's why we said we should help another person in order to reach his goal. He knows what is his goal. He has to determine his goal. There is no doubt about it. Unless one is a saint, unless one is a guru, unless one knows, or a tapasvi who has attained that jnanam, he will not be able to understand the other's karma. It is not possible. So if he understands the other's karma, then there is no problem. Like a saint helps others, he can help others. But whereas a normal Grihastha ashrami, he doesn't know what is the other person's karma. Let it be a child, let it be somebody, he doesn't know. So what we have to do? We have to observe these. When we know this, how to acquire this jnanam through the bhakti, it can be bhakti. Bhakti is also, certain bhakti is also karma. Here, most of the bhakti we do nowadays is that we are asking for something, desire. It is not a bhakti actually. Bhakti is only devotion, devoting, dedicating, that giving only. There is no taking there. There is no asking for it. There is no asking. There is only giving. Giving means giving ourselves, submission. This is called bhakti. The true bhakti is that. That is also jnanam. Who can give? Only give. Only a jnani can do that. Because if I do not know what is the bhakti, many of us, by misunderstanding, we say, what is the wrong? I am going all the way to that Bhagavan to see, spend so much of money and climb the hill, walking, there's so many, have penance. I will go to, what is that, where we, Shivling ka Abhishek karte, during that Shravan. What is that place? Coward Lake. Baidyanath Dham. I walk towards the Baidyanath Dham with that from Calcutta. I am walking, and then I go with all the troubles and all that. Then see, an expectation is there. I should get the benefit of it. Without expectation of a benefit, if you are going and doing Abhisheka, no problem. But what happens? I will take all the pains. He is taking the pains. He does it very well, no doubt about it. He follows all the rituals. He does everything. But what happens? The result is that for what? For such and such purpose. The whole purpose, the whole exercise that what he has done, it is not an anubhava again. What is his anubhava? No? His anubhava is that if I do this, I will get the result of that is his anubhava. Total purpose is lost. Is it bhakti? It's not bhakti. Bhakti is only devotion. So this is why there is a difference between jnana. An ajnani, when he does this bhakti, this happens. Without knowing, he should be in a position to do like Shabari, like Prahlada, like many others. Devotion of the whole thing, that's the highest jnana. That means total surrender. This anubhava, what I am trying to explain from all this is that how one should feel when I do prayer or when I do puja, I must feel that, as I told you earlier also, what are the purposes, why these rituals have been made. In my book also, the rituals of India, we have written that, where it is told that, what is the pushpam, why we do that, this pushpam samarpayami, gandham samarpayami, dhupam samarpayami, Naivedyam samarpayami, jalam samarpayami, this, what is that? Samarpayami. Aham samarpayami. I am submitting myself. So this is a representation. Through pushpa, I am representing all the characteristics. Dhupam, I am submitting all my gunas. Sharira, that Naivedyam, the whole Naivedyam, because of that only we do Sharira. Samarpayami. Samarpanam. Anubhava in each and every activity of the puja when you are doing, you should have this Samarpana bhava, that's called the Anubhava. When you have Samarpana bhava in Anubhava, what happens? Gradually, the pushpa is no more necessary. You submit yourself. It's called submission. This is Anubhava. So one should understand that. I am going into detail because we never studied these details, I don't think. People go superficially, experiencing, and people have understood experiencing in different ways. If I do this, I will get this, is called experiencing. No, creating the true Brahmajnanam is called experiencing. From each and every activity, I attain the Brahmajnana. As I told you in the last class also, that if I attain through the bhutas, if I attain that jnanam of that purpose of the knowing through the bhutas. What is the purpose of knowing through bhutas? Why should I pray to the picture? Why should I pray to the statue? Why should I pray to the statue in the temple? No. What are the differences? All this can be assimilated as can be understood only through Anubhava. Once the Anubhava is taken place, then you really know what is called the true bhakti, or one knows what is supposed to be done. So in each and everything, that's called walking to the spiritual path. That means experience of the spirit that is inside, experience of the antaratma, that's called the experiencing, that's called the Anubhava. Bhavate, Anubhavate. That means that what is happening, what is supposed to happen, what has happened, everything to be knowing it and following it is called Anubhava, following that bhava, that happening. Happening should be that. Happening means what again? Happening is what? See, each and every word has got thousands of explanations. We say that I have not done it, it just happened. No? Is it not? We use this word. That means you did not do it, it just happened. From how? It just happened, I don't know, it happened. I wanted to have it, it just happened that when I went there, it was there. It happened. And that means that which I have not intentionally done through my intelligence and intellect, through my education, through my background of experience and things like that, if that has not been done by me, but that what is supposed to be happening, as I told you some time back, that Bhagavan came on his dream and told that, look, this will happen. Happening, He did not intentionally sleep seeing the dream of the Bhagavan coming and telling him. What happened? It happened. I'm just telling you the happening. So it happened. What has happened? Happened means that which I have not done it, but it happened. Is it not? Anubhava. That happens which I have not done it, which I have not done it. How this happens? Now again, there should be a reason to happen. How can something happen? An intense vision towards that will make it happen. Your absolute focusing, tapasya towards that something. If I got what he has done, that in case of that Nandanar, his name was Nandanar. Suddenly it came. Nandanar was praying to Bhagavan only. He did not say, I want to see you in dream and all that. He was just thinking of Lord, thinking of Lord, thinking of Lord, without anything else, no other thoughts, concentrating absolutely on him and just visualizing Bhagavan. So he won in the dream and it happened. When you focus totally, it's also, even in the physical activities, in Tantrism, in mesmerizing, in magic, mesmerism, and many other things, like focusing on something you want to study, to focus on, concentrating. So when you focus on something, it should happen. This is called happening. Happening that without actually doing something on it. There is no process of making it happen. One is that doing. Doing means I know. I take this, I cut this, I make this, I turn it and I shape it. Then it happens. That is not happening. I made it. That's called I made it. But that, without all these processes, I only focused on that and just happened. This is called happening. That without going through the processes, that which happens is called the happening. So this happening can be done only through the visualization, through insight. That means called experiencing. This is called Anubhava. While doing a puja, that Anubhava of experience, that has to be there. When you have Anubhava, what happens here? I am asking for something, like I said about the coward going to do Abhisheka. He says that if I do this, I will get this. His Anubhava and his focusing is only on that, not on bhakti. So we cannot call it as a bhakti. Even if he gains it, it is not through bhakti, it is through his business dealings, through focusing. This can happen, many things can happen. So even bhakti, that focusing is that Anubhava, it should happen like that. This Anubhava should be there. Story, Diti, when she was Diti, Mata, Diti was conceiving the Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. She kept them inside the stomach for many years because there were symptoms that if they are born, There will be destruction to the world. Delayed. She kept them in the pregnancy thinking that, hey Bhagwan, how to do that? But this cannot be avoided because it's a curse to Jaya Vijaya. We said about that, don't you remember? But ultimately she was born. But what happened? The anubhava of Diti, that it should not happen, made her strong enough to hold this pregnancy towards a very long period, which is not possible by normal persons. This can be done only by a tapasvi, that it can delay the pregnancy, you see. And she did that. But ultimately, well, Bhagavan's curse, that has to happen, so it has happened, that's a different thing. Anubhava, why I am saying all these things, that each and every aspect of our life, each and every activity of our life, we should have the anubhava of the Brahman from that. We should have the anubhava of the spiritual, that means Parabrahman or Paramatma or whatever you call it. That ultimate aim is that meant for walking towards that. In each and every kartavya that we are doing, we should know that. That's why Bhagavan said that whatever you do, you give me the results. You submit the results to me, he said. That means what? Anubhava of me. Anubhava of giving all you in me. This is called that anubhava. Experiencing that giving of that. Experiencing your kartavya is not meant for yourself. You are looking after your family, you are looking after your children, you are looking after your family, you are looking after the society, you are looking after the other things, all meant for what? For what? Not to earn punya. Many people say that, oh, I do lot of punya karmas. Finished. His result is over. That's all. Because he is wanting a result out of it. He wants to enjoy the results out of it. Whereas he should have an experience of Brahmatvam in that execution, that what he is doing. When he does a service, definitely does very good service. But ultimately he has got a purpose behind it. When he has a purpose behind it and then does it, the result is not that. Whereas when he does that, he looks after the family, he looks after the society, he looks after, take care of things, he does his kartavyas, he does his karmas only for the purpose of experiencing the Brahmatvam. Because these are the karmas through which he has to experience the Brahmatvam. That means devotion and dedication. From this, what is he learning? Renunciation is that what he is learning. He is renouncing everything, he is giving away everything. He is giving love, he is giving his efforts, he is giving his kartavya, he is giving his life, he is giving his activities, he is giving his wealth, he is giving his this, everything he is giving is that, he is learning the Brahma Tattva without any expectation of result out of it. The moment I expect a result for what I do, then I will not have the enjoyment of working on that. Mandasmitam will not be there in my face, and Ashirya will not be there, and that Ananda will not come to me, and I will not be able to enjoy the Brahmatattvam, Brahmajnanam inside me. There is nothing bigger than Brahmajnanam and Brahmatattvam. That which makes you, promote you towards that liberation. All that karmas that thousands of times, I think I must have repeated this during our number of years of classes. All the karmas that were, all our janmas that we are taking is meant only to get liberated from this. Having liberation towards the Brahman. So identification, while walking on the spiritual path itself is an enjoyment. Experiencing that spiritual path in each and every activity, experiencing spirituality in each and every activity that I am doing itself is a beautiful way of living. That living is wonderful actually. This is what we said, that in Brahmachari, when he lives, as Vaishambhayana said, when a Brahmachari leads his life through that dedication and devotion and the renunciation and does his kartavyas based on the Brahmatvam, Brahmajnanam, Brahmatattvam, his life is so beautiful. He enjoys being there. That means he be enjoying the Brahmatattva while in the physical body. This is something which is not possible even for Devdas. It's not that. That is it. This is the difference between them. So is why he said about that orientation of mind and the experiencing. We said working towards that. This experiencing has to be there in us. That means anubhava has to be there. How do we do anubhava? Examples I have told you a number of times. Like we last class also, so many things that the result of that, each and everything that what you are doing is meant for, well, again, coming to concising that in one word, one sentence. Each and every activity that I am executing and I am doing is meant for my renunciation. It is meant for the liberation of me. That what I do should not entangle me with many other things, whereas should release me from the entanglements. It should be the purpose of execution of a particular karma. Then you will know exactly what karma you are supposed to do. Does it entangle me with that and make me go round and round and round? Or is it relieving me from that? You may do the same karma what you are doing now, but with a different understanding, that's all. You do the same thing. As we have taken birth in our sharira and mana, we have to undergo certain things, but we may do the same thing, but with a different focusing on that. It's meant for liberation. Then what happened? There will not be swarthata. The moment the swarthata comes inside that, our anubhava is different. When there is a swarthata, my anubhava is pleasure, enjoyment in that. The moment I don't see, if I am doing something good to them, good to somebody, that feeling of Brahmatvam should be there inside that. Anubhava of that what I am doing is meant for liberation of me, not for entanglement. Not gaining a credit out of that, you see. That means, oh, I have given that. I am a big man. No, they should respect me. They should do this. These are all called anubhava. So you understood what he mean by anubhava. Anubhava, bhava, that follows the bhava happening is called anubhava. So this happening should be there. This anubhava has to be experienced. 18th shloka, Bhagavan says, Tamasi says here, Sada jnada chitta vrittayasta prabho purushasya parinamitvat Sada jnada ashrita vrittasta prabho. The modifications of the mind, jnata ashrita. Modifications of the mind are always known to the self due to unchanging nature of Purusha. Purushasya parinamitvat. The modifications of the mind are always known to the self due to unchanging nature of Purusha. It's a big information. Again, the soul or the Purusha that is in everyone, in everything, in everywhere, that one soul, that one Purusha, that all-pervading Purusha, all-pervading Brahman, the one Purusha, the one Brahman, that which is in you also, in everywhere also. Like the air. The air is in you means doesn't mean that air is trapped in you. No. It's not trapped in you. No? That's the same way. Brahman is in you means Brahman is not trapped in you. Only in a Jivatma. Brahman is Sarvam Brahmamayam, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. In everything. In everything Brahman is inhabited. It is there in everywhere. So the soul or the Purusha observes all change through which the mind goes, because eternal, it is the eternal witness. Whatever changes that are happening, it all ultimately the result is known to that Brahman, that soul. Is why I told you that each and every activity I am doing should be towards the realization of the Brahman. Simple. That's it. That's what is there. When I am connecting my activity towards the Brahman, The Brahman gives the path towards the mind, to the mind, that this is how it has to be done. When I look for the pleasures through the Indriyas, the focusing of the mind is disrupted towards the Brahman or to the Atma, will automatically make you experience the pleasures of the objects. Because the Atma is, or the soul or the Purusha is, eternal witness. It sees everything, we say that. It's not involved in the disruption of any activity. So witness means a witness who gives you the informations. Witness, you witness. He doesn't hold your hands and say that don't do this. He says that if you do this, this will happen. Rest is left to you. If you do this, this will happen. This information is given. It's what is called the witness. Hear the witness. Don't take the literal meaning of the witness who has seen something and then explaining it. No, through his intelligence. No. Witness in the real form of the witness, that who sees everything, is called a witness. Who has seen everything, who sees everything, who will see everything, is the witness in Vedanta. And whereas in the materialistic world, who has seen something and who expresses that is called a witness. Okay, you understood? I was a witness to that incident, or I am witness to this. So what has happened, he exactly projects it from his memory. Depending upon his understanding, is called a witness in the materialism. Whereas here what happens, the witness is that the witness is the one who knows everything, who has seen everything, who is seeing everything, who will see everything, is the one who is the witness. And not only he sees everything, he also informs you that this is what has happened, this is what is happening. That is how we know that, oh, I did that, probably that is why this has happened. I should not have done it. From where this comes? This comes from, not from our intelligence alone. Maybe some certain things are coming from our intelligence. But basically many things come from that eternal who is the witness. All true knowledge exists permanently in the self. All true knowledge exists permanently in the self. While the mind is constantly being modified by the thought waves. The mind is constantly being modified by the thought waves. The thought waves, he said, yes. It's like a wave only. One comes after another, keeps on coming. These thought waves have been created in our mind through the external experiences and experienced through the Indriyas. What we are physically seeing without understanding the Bhautikata in it. That means even though the Bhutas are there, as I told you in the previous class, through the Bhutas experiencing the Ishwaratva or the Brahmatva or knowing the knowledge, having the knowledge, through the Bhautikata, through the Bhutas, through experiencing through the materialism, experiencing through the materialism. If that is not there, what happens? The thought waves, constant changes and modifications, that what you are experiencing in the plurality, without an analysis, for a personal benefits, for the enjoyment, for the pleasures, they keep on changing, and the mind is keep on changing it, keep on not able to focus on why am I seeing it, why I should not see it. This is not happening. So that is what it is. So this is called the thought waves. Now this is also a very big subject. Self, the knowledge. What is the self? What is the self? What do you understand from the self? The self is nothing but our highest consciousness, higher consciousness is called the self. It is a higher consciousness. That means the Brahman. That's called higher consciousness. The literal meaning of Brahman is higher consciousness. The higher consciousness knows everything. He is a witness. See, that's why it cannot do anything. It's not doing anything. It knows everything. Consciousness knows everything. Even when you are sleeping, you know many things. And when you wake up also, when you are doing so many other things, you know many things. This highest consciousness knows everything. How Arjuna, after taking the advice from Bhagavan Krishna, says that what is Karma Yoga, what is Jnana Marga, what is Bhakti Marga, what is the Vanaprastha, what is the Sannyasa Yoga, Bhagavan explained to him. When he explained to him who directed towards his knowledge, how Arjuna got transformed, how Arjuna got his knowledge, how did he change from the Vishada to the activity, how did he change from Vishada to the reality or the truth, how did it happen? We all say that Bhagavan said, Bhagavan advised, he understood, so he did it. I have gone the details, what is called this understanding. Just by we also, many people advise many of us. Okay, what he has told is right. Okay, I understand that, but I will not do it. One kind of understanding. No? ये तो स्वामी लोग तो बोलते रहता है, उसको क्या मालूम है तकलीफ क्या होता है, हम काम नहीं करने से खाने नहीं मिलेगा. He is talking about spirituality. There is another proverb, somebody has told that भूखे को वेदांत सुनाने से क्या फायदा है, because he is suffering with bhuk only. Unless he fulfills his bhuk, the hunger, how can he understands the Vedanta? These are all excuses and talks people make, proverbs for spiritual studies. This is not that. Yes, very true. Now for that to understand, one word, you see, let me tell you. What he said is true. As far as the Bhautika Jivan is concerned. Bhuke ko Vedant sunane se, let me take that. That's the worst part of it. No, all this. भूखे को वेदांत सुनने से क्या फायदा है, उसको तो कुछ समझ में नहीं आएगा. He will say that I am hungry, I don't want to listen to your pravachan. वेदांत जितना भी हो, whether it is Rigveda, whether it is Atharvana Veda, Yajurveda or Upanishads or any other Vedanta, I don't want to listen, is what he will tell is the argument. Let me put it that way. Absolutely right. Vedanta, Veda and the Jnanam is meant for those starving people who would like to have the knowledge, those who would like to walk into the spirituality, spiritual path, and liberate themselves towards that, kaivalya towards them. This knowledge is meant for them. Now, I would like to explain the proverb of Bhuka, or the man who is hungry. The man who is hungry would not like to listen to, or won't understand anything unless he fills his stomach. Absolutely right. What does it actually mean, even though the proverb is there? What is the meaning of this proverb? Do you know? You all thought, or we all thought, including me, we all thought that, okay, a man who is hungry, if he doesn't get roti, he will not be in a position to understand it. Only after he meets his requirement of the physical necessities, then only he will, the next step. Unless he meets his physical necessities, he will not be in a position to understand through the mind. Is that what we are talking? Maybe right as well as the outlook of physical or materialistic way of things are concerned. What should we understand from this proverb? From this proverb, that what we should understand is that a man who is living in the materialism, a man who is looking for the results of pleasures from each and every activity that he does, he will not be in a position to divert his mind from the indriyas and the activities of the indriyas and the results of the pleasures to the Paramatma or the higher consciousness is the meaning of it. It's not a physical hunger or physical releasing out of it. He will not understand the Vedanta. The man who is, the simple way, the man who is entangled in this the man who is entangled in the physical world, the man who is entangled in the Bhautika Jivan or the physical world or the Sansara or what you call the materialistic world, what we call. The man who is entangled in the materialistic world, who constantly would like to identify pleasures and happiness through the bhutas, will not be in a position to understand spirituality is the meaning of it actually. This is called Bhukeko Vedant Sunanesi. Who is Bhuka? The one who would like to have food. What is food? Food is meant for the Sharira. So the man who is concerned about it, what is the meaning of it? Not the literal meaning of Bhuk and the literal meaning of Vedanta. No. The man who is concerned only about his Sharira, he is not interested in understanding about the Atman. Is the meaning of that. You understand? No? We misunderstood. No, yes, if we have hunger, how will we understand? Absolutely right. The meaning is not that hunger or roti ka hunger or rice ka hunger or the fulfilling the stomach is not the hunger what he is talking about. When this proverb, Bhukiko Sunana, Bhuka means what? The one who is starving for the pleasures of the world is called Bhuk. Starvation. He thinks he doesn't have. What is Bhuk? That which requires for the Sharira. Sharira needs it because it doesn't have the energy, and the Sharira thinks that, or mind thinks that, unless this is taken, we will not have the energy. Same way, the Bhuka is that, here the Bhuka is that in the physical sense or in the materialistic sense of Bhautika Jivan, the Bhuka is that the one who would like to enjoy the pleasures of the physical world or the materialistic world or Bhautika Loka, for him, he will not be able to understand the Vedanta, is the meaning of it. Why is because this one, what that here, that's what reminded me. The mind is constantly being modified by the thought waves. The mind being constantly being modified. How are the modifications? The modifications of that, let me acquire pleasure from this experience, let me acquire the pleasure from reading a book, okay, let me acquire pleasure from earning little money, let me acquire pleasure from eating, let me acquire pleasure from jogging, let me acquire pleasure from dieting. There can be so many, all these pleasures. They are all nothing to do with spirituality. Does it have any connection with the spirituality? Book doesn't have any spiritual connection with the spirituality, no? You understood what I am saying? The man who is entangled in the physical and the man who is entangled in the Bhautika Sukha, pleasures of the materialism, is not eligible to gain the spiritual knowledge. Eligible in the sense, the mind will not be in a position. He doesn't have, the thought waves is constantly troubling him. Let me call it as troubling him. troubling him to look for pleasures for the body and mind only. Why is it happening then? One is because of his karma phalas. What's the reason why it's happening? One is because of this karma phalas. Second, because he did not even take, as I told you, one step you put forward, 10 step God puts forward. This, same way. He, even though he knows or he has understood sometime or other, these pleasures keep changing, he did not find a path towards putting one step towards the spirituality, so that to identify how can I get a permanent happiness from that. That effort he has not made. He kept on, just kept on doing the same thing that what he had been doing, trying to acquire pleasures from the material, is called the thought waves of that, which doesn't allow him to that. So the proverb that bhuke ko, the man who is hungry, will not understand Vedanta. This is the meaning of it. Otherwise, imagine, I take you towards another plane of that. If you take it in the right, only the literal meaning of that. A tapasvi who is sitting in Himalayas for 6 months, 8 months, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, is he not bhuka? In our language? Mahabhuka he is. So many years he has not eaten. So many months he has not eaten. That means he is not. Vedanta bolna nahi chahiye kya? I am just making one conscious. What does the bhuka means? It's not the literal meaning of the bhuk means hunger, of physical hunger, of the stomach, filling the stomach. It is a physical hunger, you can call it. He is also hungry. His stomach is also empty. Bhuka hai na. If I am saying bhuka, this is also bhuka. So the true meaning of the bhuke ko Vedant sunana, the literal meaning is that the man who is entangled in the material benefits and materialism, what understanding of spirituality he will have is the meaning of it. For that he has to be diverted towards satsanga. First step towards satsanga. First step towards understanding that the pleasures are temporary. They are only very temporary. They will give me only satisfaction of my ego for a short while, but not permanently. This understanding has to be there. Then only you will be there. So that is why he says that, why should we have this? Why should I have that? Because all these thought waves through the mind and all the variations from the mind, all the experiences that this is also experience, these experiences which are negative for a person, what is this material experiences? These materials are focusing the mind only towards the pleasures, is obstructing him from liberating himself, is a negative or a papa karma, which is known as a papa karma, which is a negative act. It's called papa because you are doing a sin to you. What is a sin? You are not letting you get liberated from this. You want that your atma and your soul should be always entangled in this physical sharira in order to enjoy the pleasures of the world. And these pleasures of the world are all temporary, and it keeps on coming and going, which is never permanent. So you are not in a position to tie up yourself in the stability of anywhere. You keep on moving and keep on changing. Bhuka hai always. He is permanently hungry. No. Is he not permanent? He is permanently hungry. A man who is living in materialism, when is he fulfilled his hunger? Let me ask. He remained bhuka throughout the 100 years or 80 years or 120 years. He lived, he remained a bhuka only. So when you classify bhuk is also that. He is constantly bhuka. Then what spirituality he can understand? So physical, this is the meaning of dukkha. Vedanta is that Veda, Anta of the Veda. Anta of the Veda, the gist of the Veda. It's not the rituals, it's not the book, it's not the knowledge, it's not. Anta of the Veda, that ultimate truth is that Aham Brahmasmi Prajnanam Brahma Tattvamasi. I am Atma Brahma. Mahavakyas, I have told already that this is what I am. This knowledge, this experience, or this anubhava, again I repeat that anubhava. I want you to have the anubhava, that otherwise, the anubhava you should have. Each and everyone should be conscious. What do you mean by anubhava? We call it in other language, we in normal language say, you should be conscious. But then, before you do that something, you should be conscious. What are the repercussions of that? In normal languages we say that. Absolutely right. Before executing a kartavya, you should know what is the anubhava of that. You should be in a position to experience the anubhava that before you do that. What will happen? If I serve my family, it's actually serving, actually. No? We are not providing anything. Who am I to provide? Do I have got capacity to provide? No. God has given us something. No. Because of our satkarmas, certain things are there that we do serve. It is meant for serving. Our experience, our education, our wealth, our health, our swabhava, our culture, our dharmam, everything is meant for what? To do the service to that. When I do serve means what? Worship. When I give, dedicate and devote. When I am giving this devotion and dedication, when I give this with the anubhava of that, I am only an instrument that passing out these facilities to others. So through which I gain. If I do not derive any pleasure out of it, I don't steal something out of it. Let me put it in a crude language. If I don't steal something out of it for my pleasure, then it is Brahmanubhavam, it is the Atma Sakshatkaram, it is the course of walking through the spiritual path, by which I gain the immense happiness, where constant plentiness will be there, happiness will be there, Mandasmitam will be there, Akasmitam will be there. A lot of akasmita, that means surprises will be there. When I give something, I gave it, then suddenly it has come again. Something else has come. Akasmita. I did puja and suddenly this has happened. I never expected it. No, it has happened because of my puja. Fine. I did not ask for that akasmita, that momentary. Here in the physical world it is momentary, that akasmita. Because I am unable to preserve that agasmitam, that ashirya in my consciousness permanently because of my, why? Because of my entanglement with the materialism, my attention immediately diverts to materialism. So this akasmita or the experience of the Bhagavata is forgotten. Otherwise, everyone gains this experience. Everyone gets these flashes of the presence of the Brahman. Everyone gets it. Presence. Children will get it more, elders, depending upon their. Otherwise, everyone gets the Brahma Sakshatkaram. Everyone have the vision of the Lord. Everyone have the vision of the Brahman. Not that somebody has, but the one who has trained to retain, to focus on him, he constantly gets it, or longer he gets it. But the others, because it just happens to him. As I told you, it happens. Bhavate. Then what happens? His mind immediately goes into because of the thought waves, goes into the attraction of the materialistic pleasure. So I relate that experience to the material pleasure. Immediately that agasmita gets lost. It converts into the pleasure remaining as temporary. This is how you should work on that, you see. So this happens. So Bhagavan says, Sada Yahata Ashritatva Ashrita Vrittayasta Prabhoho Jnata. Jnata is that the one who knows Jnata. Who is the one who knows everything? Only that Purusha, only that Bhagavan. Jnata, I am the one whom I say I. That inner me is the Jnata. Jnata, Ashritatvam, the one who depends on that Ashrita. That means depending on that Ashraya, depending on having Ashraya towards that, the one who knows everything, the one who is all pervading, will automatically, who is a witness, will make you understand the materialistic pleasure. You can enjoy the pleasures, you can enjoy the materialism, nothing wrong, but with understanding of the Brahmajnanam Brahmatattvam, relating it to Brahmajnanam Brahmatattvam. A true Brahmachari also lives a wonderful life reading. He has got a Grihastha he has got children, he has got needs, he has got requirements, he also eats everything. But what happens? Even though all these are there, they are all keep remaining in the conscious mind, whereas in his activity, each and every activity, he works through the higher consciousness where he doesn't get attracted. That means he doesn't have expectation or the results of the expectation from that, whatever is happening. Yes, I wanted to tell something else. Okay, that. When that expectation is no more there, that means what is expectation? Any results out of it for the purpose of Swartha. And expectation is always meant for Swarthada, for enjoyment of for our self-ego. If that is not there, then the witness will project its knowledge to the manner. When mind is frozen with the activities that is fed by the Indriyas, automatically the reflection comes from the witness or from the Atma, and he gets flooded with that absolute Jnanam. When that absolute Jnanam is implemented in the execution of karmas in the materialistic life, is directly from the higher consciousness. This is called Brahma Sakshatkaram while living. Is that what is doing? Yes. So that asakti should not be there. This is what I want. That asakti should not be there. Asakti in the materialism. You enjoy it. You are drinking a glass of juice, you enjoy it, no problem. But asakti should not be created. Asakti is that, again, repetition of the same thing, entanglement. That means one you have, it is for necessity. Two is for pleasure. No? होते हैं ना? एक ले लो, तुम्हारे लिए एक का जरूरत है. How many clothes you want? One set of clothes. One is for necessity. Two is for pleasure. Yeah. Why did I have to? Because of asakti. I'm not telling about the clothes, I've just told you an example. One is meant for necessity, two for pleasure. Two because of asakti, two for pleasure. This is the tattva of the Brahmacharitam. In Kartavya also. Just give one for, okay. As a brahmachari, as he has to execute certain karmas, he has been provided with certain things. That is necessary. So he has got certain things. But other things are all given. Right? Yes. As a president of our country, he has been provided with a beautiful car, a Vahan. Those days it was I think horse cart, driven by so many horses and with all the guards around him, securities around him. Today it is mechanized, okay. Plus his securities are there. A man like Dr. Abdul Kalam, he's a simple man, knowledgeable, simple man. He must have thought, or he must have told, or he must have thought, why do I need all these things? let me just walk around from this office to that office. He can move. But he is not allowed to walk. There is a decency of that position is there. He has to travel in that car. He has to have the security around him. It is because to fulfill the kartavya of that. Same way, when a brahmachari, why I am saying that, no, you should not think that, oh, president in luxury. But after the day he retires, like that's why I told only person I can examine is the Dr. Abdul Kalam, nobody else. The day he retired, he just walked with one of, how many, I think he had got, somebody said only 2 or 3 shirts and pant only. He did not accumulate during the process of anything. With that, he just fought, and he went into started teaching the children in the college or student. He just, without any reluctance on that, absolutely okay. You got it? He has executed his kartavya as president with all the decorum of all that what is necessary, and immediately after his kartavya of the presidency is over, immediately he took up the other kartavya, both with equal happiness. It's not that he does went back to his place and he started teaching or whatever. I think he was teaching for some time, and without any reluctance of it, without any reduction of any in his pleasure. That is called happiness. Not that pleasure he enjoyed, and he did not have a asakti towards that, and said that, oh, I should be living like that. I was an ex-president. Give me a place in Delhi. He said, nothing doing. I'm just going away to Madurai or wherever he was. He said, I'm going there. That's what his mindset is. He doesn't want any of these things. A brahmachari, I'm not literally translating him. I'm just, as an example, I can project him like that. So what does it mean here? That whenever I am doing a particular kartavya, certain facilities are provided to me by the God. I execute it for the purpose of the benefit of that particular kartavya. After that, that is no more mine. It is he has dedicated. There is no asakti after that. There is no asakti. There is no expectations after that. Finished it, and then he went back, took another kartavya, equally enjoying, equally happy with that, and equally responsible, equally dedicating and devoting. He is executing that kartavya there. See, got it? Without any. He has never thought while sleeping, oh, I was a president. No. He always thought, I am a teacher. When we are but here, he always thought, I am a president. I must behave like this. I must do this. In each and every. This is what I mean when I said Vaishambhayana said, for a brahmachari, who can do this control? Can you and me do it? No, impossible. A man who is a brahmachari only can do it, you see. Who doesn't expect anything. Who doesn't have any asakti towards that. No. This is what I think the same meaning I told so many years ago, I think, when we were taking some Upanishad, we do not want to leave our this one. I told you in Guwahati when I went there, I saw one board, ex-chief engineer PWD. Ex-president. And somebody went that sorry, I don't mean to demean anybody, or I don't want to tell that. But there were some other people who held, very high position of that. They wanted another president, ex-president was there, who wanted to have so much of land, so much of house, and this has to be given by government. There was even practically a fight, not a fight, of course, a requirement was there. Whereas this gentleman, he says, pack my one suitcase, three pants and 2 shirts. I'm just projecting as an example. I don't mean to praise or disgrace somebody by telling names or positions. The purpose of expressing this is only meant for explaining Asakti and the Brahmacharya, how we should execute. This is the best example which I could suddenly come to my mind. So, and one who had been holding the highest offices in our country. President is the highest office in our country. And after that he living a normal life as without any Asakti. There is no better example I can project. Is why I told his name, not because of that. So, what I am trying to tell is that this is what Vaishambhayana meant when in Chandogya Upanishad, when he said that a brahmachari is the one who is eligible to lead his life. That means without an asakti, he does everything. As I told you, he enjoyed all his office, he enjoyed all the facilities, he ate all good meals, all. He ate everything, he did everything, he had the pleasures of it. He lived in a very luxurious place, no doubt about it. Fine, no problem. If you have it, God has given you, enjoy it. Have it, no asakti, but execute it. It is meant for providing for others. When he provides it to the others, he finds the pleasure of happiness of the agasmitam of that, the bandhasmitam automatically comes. Here comes the Brahma Sakshatkaram, Brahmajnana. Witness, why? Why? Because who can do this? The one highest consciousness being the witness, constantly projecting the jnanam to the conscious mind permanently. So the mind functions based on that because it is the perfection, and that is perfect and that is right. This is called walking in the spiritual path, is what I am trying to tell. Yes. I always wanted to continue with something else. Here what I wanted to tell you is that it's time, of course. Is how the jnanam is acquired through our experience. Next, now we have told that the jnanam has to be acquired. That means we should have the execution of karmas, kartavyas and karmas based on having the experience of it through brahmacharya. How can we attain that? And how do we do it? We'll tell, I think, again in the next class. This is where how physically how it happens. Moral, I won't say exactly, a sort of what do you call it? Similarities that we can explain from that, drawing an inference. Because otherwise, a Brahman cannot be explained, knowledge cannot be explained. Through inference, we will see how it is being done to the where we come to the status of Tattvamasi. This is what we will explain. That is what is called the witness. That's what is called the Brahman. That's how we execute all those principles in different Puranas and things like that we have experienced. We'll come to the meaning of the modification of the mind, always known to self, due to unchanging nature of Purusha. The Purusha's nature is unchanging. What he means here, Bhagavan, Swamiji, the nature of the Purusha, the nature of the Antaratma, the nature of the Brahman is unchanging, constant, Nityam, and the nature of the mind is Anityam, changing. This changing has to be merged into unchanging, because the changing has come, the changes have come from, Anityam has come from Nityam only. So this Anityam has to be dissolved into Nityam. When the ignorance of the Anitya can be removed, when we will convert ourselves into Anityam. How the ignorance can be removed, that also we will explain in the next class. How this ignorance, from Anityam to Nityam, how can I change? How this ignorance can be changed, we will discuss in the next class. Om Shanti.